I've been a professional speaker for about 5 years. I have spoken on countless stages all over Australia, and I've spoken to every age group, from preps, from like 4-year-olds, all the way up to 80-year-olds. And every single time I've graced that stage, I always have one thing in mind. If I can impact one person in that audience and encourage them to think about themselves differently, instead of having some sort of cap over their potential because of their diagnosis, I just hope that I speak to one person, they relinquish that cap and pursue their dreams with everything they've got. Do you know how NASA, like these are the smartest people in the world, NASA, okay, how the smartest people in the world, NASA, stop a comet from coming towards Earth. So if a comet is hurling towards Earth at like 10,000 kilometers a second, and as soon as it hits us, boom, we blow up and we all die. The whole world ceases to exist. Do you know how NASA stops that comet? Instantly, we always think we blow it up. We send something up, a giant rocket, Bruce Willis, whoever it might be. We send up a giant object and destroy it, blow it up and protect the world. That is not what they do. Instead, they do shoot up a giant object, but that giant object goes next to the comet and just sits next to it. And using the gravitational pull of the large object, it'll just take it off course by like 1 degree. Now, over a very long period of time, like over a very long distance, at 10,000 kilometers, if you just change its degree by 1%, then by the time it's meant to hit Earth, it completely misses it by a mile, by a long shot, and saves the world. Our instant reaction when we see a challenge is run at it head on and destroy the challenge. But NASA, to save the world, just changes course ever so slightly. When I grace stages, I talk about how I navigated my life living with Tourette syndrome, ADHD, failing school, being a bit of a hyperactive, weird character as well. Sometimes in social settings, not really fitting in, struggling to make friends in some instances, being a little bit of an outcast. When I was fresh out of school, I landed a kids show, a job on television at the very beginning of my career. It was a TV show, a presenter for a TV show. Now, living with Tourette's, I tick, man. I twitch. I make noises. I twitch my body. There's no way I could have been on TV. Now, this was before the whole woke movement were around, before the woke brigade. So I was met with a challenge. The bosses pulled me aside and said, hey man, you got to get, like, that can't be seen on screen. They said, is it an issue? And I said, it's not an issue. In fact, I can control it. I had to learn how to redirect these tics. There is something that we can do, people with Tourette's. We can suppress. Suppressing is just not ticking for a long period of time. But that's not a solution. That's like a band-aid, because all it does, it's the same as not blinking. You can just not blink for a long period of time, but after a certain amount, it gets really frustrating and you have to like excessively blink because you withdrew from blinking for so long and it builds up a bit of a frustration. That's the same with tics. So if I don't let this tick out, if I don't let that out and I just let it sit there, it builds up, a frustration builds up. And over a long period of time, it's just a constant like tick, 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 literally like a ticking time bomb. But that is not a sustainable way to live. That is trying to stop the problem instead of trying to slightly redirect it. So in my very early stages of working in the media and being a TV presenter, I had to learn to change my tic by 1 degree. By 1%, I had to change these movements. Because I was met with a challenge of my Tourette's is going to stand in the way of my dream job. This is all I ever wanted, man. I failed school. When I graduated, I couldn't spell the word skateboard properly. I spelled skateboard with an 8 in it. Like, I really struggled academically. Because of my ADHD, I wasn't able to concentrate. Anything the teacher said went in one ear and straight out the other. So I was falling behind in all of my subjects. And as a result, I was suffering academically. So when it came time to graduate, I couldn't read or write properly. I couldn't spell. So 18 years of age, I have this new job. As a TV presenter, this is my dream job. I could barely read or write. I ticked like a watch. And I had a very pivotal moment. I had two options, and every single person in life faces these options. Option one was quit. It's too hard. I can't do it. This is too difficult a task. I have Tourette's. I failed school. This is never going to work. This TV presenting thing ain't going to work. Or number two, hey, why don't I give it my best shot? And in order to do that, in order to give it everything, in order to try and train myself how to redirect my tics, train myself how to read and write, the first thing I had to do was accept the fact that I indeed had a problem. Number one, the problem was ticking. The problem was Tourette's. Number two, the problem was academia. I couldn't read or write properly, and I meant to write scripts for a TV performance. This is a major problem. So I decided to give it everything I've got, and I went through an acceptance journey. I really, truly had to accept who I was because I was so embarrassed about it at school. I was frustrated, the fact that I was different because I had this diagnosis. I was frustrated that I was a standout from the crowd in school and amongst my peers. I was a weirdo because I I made noises and I twitched. And not only that, I was falling behind in class and I was considered a dumbass. So throughout my teenage years and my younger years, I kind of put my head in the sand a little bit and just pretended it wasn't there. It was like I was walking around with a giant elephant on my back. And this elephant, everyone could see, but I was choosing to ignore it. I mean, it was on my back and I'm carrying it, and everyone could see me hunched over walking with this giant elephant, but I was pretending I was normal. I hated having Tourette's because it made me different. And that really is the key to humanity. We want to fit in. We want connection. We want community. We want to feel like we're a part of something. And when we feel different, it is a frustration. It is a disconnect. And I felt disconnected because of this stupid diagnosis that I didn't want. I hated it and it made me different. But I finally accepted it. And in order to move forward, in order to push through barriers, you must accept the challenges that stand in front of you. Not diminishing those challenges, not stopping them, but accepting them, using them, and having that same mindset as NASA by just changing your course by 1 degree. So every morning when I woke up, I would analyze myself and ask, how am I feeling? Am I tired? Am I hungry? Am I angry? Am I anxious? Am I happy? Am I excited? And I would register my brain and what it was saying to my body. The way Tourette syndrome works is everyone's brain sends unwanted messages, sends random signals to the body. Now these are unwanted messages. These messages might be wiggle your toes, click your fingers, whatever it is, okay? But everybody's brain has a gate to stop those unwanted signals. But people with Tourette's have a weak gate. So those signals fire through. It's like if you have two paddocks in a farm, one with sheep, one without sheep. And there's no gate in the middle. Well, the one with sheep, they'll get through to the other paddock. And that's the same kind of theory with Tourette's. It's a lot more complicated than that, but it's a very simplified way of trying to get the message across of how Tourette's works. It also is like when your brain sends that message to the body and you put a cotton bud in your ear, you know that same feeling, and you get that spot with it and you go, oh. With Tourette's, when that brain sends a message to the body to tick, it's the same feeling as like going a little bit too deep with a cotton bud. It feels incredible. It's like getting a stone out of your shoe. So if you're suppressing, you're constantly getting that feeling and it's frustrating. So I would analyze which mood triggered my tics and made me tick worse. And every day I would work on the mood. Okay, if I'm anxious, how do I stop that anxiety? If I'm hungry, okay, I'll eat. How do I manage my food intake, my diet? Okay, if I'm happy, am I ticking more when I'm happy and I'm hyperactive? I would constantly analyze my body, my brain, and my mood. And whatever mood made me tick more, I would manage that mood, so I would tick less. But not only that, when I would register the message my brain is sending to my body and I would get a tick, I would stop myself in between the message being sent to being received, right? And I would go, oh, I have a tick. Just like when you itch your arm, you can either scratch it unconsciously, or if you're conscious enough, you can catch it and go, oh, okay, I've got an itchy arm. And I would analyze different ways to scratch that itch, so to speak. So instead of scratching my arm just with my fingers over my forearm, maybe I could put my forearm to my forehead, or my forearm to my bum, my forearm to my feet. Whatever it is, I learned to scratch that itch differently. Just like my tick on my shoulder. I would learn shoulder shrugs, or I would stretch my shoulders out, I would stretch my neck, and I would ask my body, which part, what is my brain actually saying? What is the sensation that it wants to feel? What is the message my brain is sending? And I would narrow it down, almost like deconstructed, like a deconstructed burger. You pull the bun apart, the beef patty, the onion, the cheese, whatever. I would deconstruct the message from my brain to my body, and I would analyze, what is the sensation? What is the exact feeling? And I would amplify that feeling with other movements. Just the same approach that NASA has to saving the world from being blown up by a comet, changing it by 1 degree, I would change my tick by just one slight detail. And I would do this with every tick all day, every day. So if I tick 200 times a day, over 3 months, that's 18,000 different variants of that tick. Now, I later found out that this is actually a technique called CBIT, Cognitive Behavioral Intervention Therapy, that psychiatrists and psychologists are actually trained in teaching people with Tourette's on how to redirect their tics. I had no idea about this. I had to learn it myself. And in this process, I really had to accept my diagnosis. And in that acceptance period, I accepted who I was as a person. So I accepted my likes, my dislikes, my interests. I did accept the fact that I was a little bit quirky and I had a personality that some people couldn't manage. I also accepted the fact that I was very loud. I had anger problems. I had addiction problems. Whatever it was, I accepted who I was as a person in all aspects. And I pulled it apart and I analyzed who I was. And every single day, I was consistent on learning how to redirect those tics from a large visual movement into a disguisable movement. So I can sit here in front of you and I can do a range of tics without you actually really noticing. I mean, you're noticing that I'm moving around, but you're not actually, it's not as eye-catching as that. For example, I had this tic. A little while ago, I had... That's a really hard tic. Okay, that was debilitating. It hurt me. It stopped me in the middle of speaking. I'm a professional speaker, man. How am I meant to keep that tic on stage? So I had to learn how to redirect it. And over a long period of time, I explored with the movements. For example, I would pause, tense my stomach. I would slow everything down and over accentuate. I would bite my teeth. That whole movement that I showed you before, I would pull it apart step by step, detail by detail. And I would find that I would get the same sensation by maybe moving my face around or slowing down and tensing my stomach. I ended up over 3 months, probably a month. That one took me maybe 2 to 3 weeks to redirect. I did it every single day and it went from to just a quiver of my lip while my mouth was open. Because persistence pays and consistency compounds. If you are consistent with something, it compounds over time. If you are persistent with something, it pays off over time. Just like the comet heading towards Earth. Every single person has something they might consider a flaw. Something that is, in their minds, a setback. A reason why they can't apply for that job. A reason why they can't pursue their dreams in a specific industry or a career or whatever it might be. People limit themselves due to an insecurity. And that insecurity is a flaw, a setback, a challenge, adversity. We all have adversity. A diagnosis, whatever it might be. It could be a traumatic past. It could be an upbringing, your family life, a financial situation. Who knows? But something is stopping you. You're putting a reason as to not pursuing something. Everybody has it. Everybody has their comet coming towards Earth. Everybody has their elephant that they carry around. My elephant was Tourette syndrome. Over time, I learned how to redirect those tics. And I actually went on to be a TV presenter for 7 years on multiple different shows all over Australia. Then I went on to breakfast radio and I hosted radio shows all over Australia. Breakfast radio for large networks here in Australia. Then after 13 years of being in the media, in broadcast media, creating content for large companies and engaging millions of Australians over the course of over a decade, I was made redundant because of COVID-19. COVID-19 struck, and financially, all large corporations were using as an excuse for financial setbacks and making cuts, cutting the flesh, if you will, trimming the fat. And so they made us redundant. Now, at that moment, I was met with another option of building resilience. And I welcomed being redundant with open arms because I had worked my butt off and I had had a career that was incredible, that I never thought was possible because of being a kid like me. I didn't think that career was possible because of this Tourette syndrome, this thing that made me different. Well, I decided that what a great career. I want to inspire others to have the same story, to not allow their setback to stop them from pursuing something, to not allow that comet to destroy their earth, to not carry that giant elephant and pretend it's invisible. So I became an ambassador for Tourette Syndrome Association Australia, and I go into schools all over the country and I share this message. I go into conference stages and corporate teams to share this message with the message of saying, hey, you have something holding you back, whether it's a diagnosis, a traumatic past, a situation that's happened to you, a financial burden, a family upbringing, whatever it is. You have something that you feel is holding you back. But if you truly accept who you are, the cards that you've been dealt with in life, and you really accept and fall in love with who you are and all of the cards that you've been dealt with in life, you can discover a passion, something you're really passionate about. You can fall back in love with yourself and your idiosyncrasies and your quirks. You then build up confidence and you build up resilient skills to pursue something with everything you've got. And the pursuit, the journey that we travel, more so is the secret rather than the end destination. Enjoying that journey, enjoying that pursuit. That's what fulfills us. You can turn something that could have been a setback and you can turn it into a strength. See, I hated having Tourette's because it made me different. I love having Tourette's because it makes me different. It's now provided me with opportunities to speak on hundreds of stages in front of millions of people over the last 4 years. I never would have had this opportunity if I didn't have Tourette's, if I ran away from it, if I ignored it, if I pretended I was normal and I never came to terms with it. I never would have embraced it and treated it as something that is actually my strength. And over the years, having Tourette's has actually really provided me with a few tools to not only manage myself, my moods, and be really hyper aware, but also to have a really thick skin. Because there's no two ways about it. Living with Tourette's and being weird, yeah, you get looked at. People make fun of you, people make jokes, people point, people notice. Always, 24/7, whenever you're in public, people notice. So consciously always being aware of that can weigh you down, especially in your younger years when everybody experiences bullying to some degree. Everybody experiences being left out of the group. Everyone experiences those hurtful comments, okay? So I can only speak from my experience. And those hurtful comments made me stronger. That doesn't happen with everybody. That only happens when you're confident in who you are to handle them. So I have a blatant rule. If anyone wants to make comments about my Tourette's, go for it. I don't care. In fact, I make so much money talking about my Tourette's. So it really doesn't bother me. The only thing is it's got to be funnier than my jokes. Now, I've done stand-up comedy on so many different stages for many years around Australia. I can make a joke about Tourette's. And typically the first person to meet me, when they try and make a joke, it's not that funny. And I've heard them all. It's also provided me with many awkward situations. And when you can handle the silence in an awkward situation, it equips you with skills later in life. It equips you with being able to step out of your comfort zone. And let me tell you, No growth happens when you're inside of your comfort zone. Our whole survival mechanism is to try and stay safe inside four walls of a house where nothing bad can happen to you. But there is no growth, no development, no achievement, no goal setting. Nothing happens when you're stuck inside of your comfort zone. Having Tourette's, I have been outside of my comfort zone so many times because I've been in awkward situations socially when people are looking, pointing, laughing, and asking questions about it when I'm not in a mood to answer it. Being put in those situations has helped me with a thick skin and has helped me feel comfortable in situations where other people won't, which has definitely provided me with skills and tools that have helped me in my content creation journey. Standing on stages, speaking behind a microphone, so many times we second guess ourselves. Don't say that, you sound silly. Don't say that, you're not woke enough. Whatever it might be. But our brains try and talk us out of something. And when we step out of our comfort zone, they remind us of those uncomfortable situations to keep you inside of your comfort zone. That's actually a survival mechanism and it's designed to keep us safe. But you must do everything you can to step outside of that comfort zone. Anything you can do day by day, step by step, inch by inch, grow that comfort zone from a small, tiny circle into a massive sporting oval. Because the more comfortable you are in situations, the better you become. And the more you are yourself. This is the biggest thing I push on stages. You are perfect how you are. You are enough with everything that you've been given, blessed with, gifted with, whatever it is. You might look at it as a setback, but it is actually a tool in your arsenal kit. You just haven't learned how to use it yet. And sometimes learning how to use it, reading the manual on how to use it, is the hardest thing you can go through. But the hardest thing you go through is often the best thing you will ever do. A lot of the times when you speak to people in bad addiction or in crime, whatever it might be, they talk about the rock bottom. And it's only when they hit rock bottom that they get better. And that rock bottom is so tough, but it is the catalyst for change. It is the catalyst for improving their life, stepping out of their comfort zone and making a strong difference. The hardest part in many people's lives is accepting who you are, what you've been dealt, the cards that you've been dealt, and learning how to use them to win that hand. You can win millions of dollars at poker by bluffing. It doesn't matter about the hand, it matters how you play it. We are all the authors of our own narrative. You just have to learn how to write yourself into situations and write yourself out of situations. You are in control. You are never in control of what happens to you. Some things are out of our control. Some things that happen to us, we might get in a car accident, that's not in our control. But how we manage it, how we handle it, and how we respond, that is in our control. And if we constantly use those situations as a victim, I can't do that because, that sentence breaks my heart. I can't do that because of. I hate it. Because if you haven't tried, you don't actually know if you can or not. The biggest failure is not even trying. That to me, it just breaks my heart when I hear people who have dreams and they've never tried to pursue them because they have something they consider a flaw. My Tourette's was once a flaw. Now it is my key that unlocks my superpower, that separates me from everyone else. It is who I am and it is ingrained in my DNA. Using it, embracing it, and accepting who I am was a very important part of my journey to being not only a keynote speaker, speaking on hundreds of stages to millions of people, but to speaking on breakfast radio shows for more than half a decade and hosting television shows all around Australia. And I was that kid who failed school, was the weirdo who was too loud, disrupting the class, that was considered a no hope, who would never go anywhere. Now I dedicate my messaging and I dedicate all of my content to encouraging you to relinquish those negative thoughts and those things that will stop you from pursuing your dreams. So listen, I hope you've enjoyed my ranting and giving you a bit of a deep dive onto some of the stuff that I talk about on stage with my keynote that's called Turn a Flaw into a Superpower.